It's finally here. Super Bowl 57. The first rung in dynasty is what we're hoping for. Chiefs get a win. They get that done. Patrick, the ankle, everybody contributing. Rookies, 17,000 snaps from rookies this year. There's a lot to go over. Welcome to RGR Football. He's Dan Harms. I'm Ryan Tracy. This is where we tell you the truth. Like it or not, pretty or ugly, it doesn't matter about the Chiefs and about the NFL. This is the culmination of everybody's season. It doesn't matter whether you're in the game or not. Every NFL I will be on this ball game, and particularly on a couple of aspects. Normally, we give you 4 points in a game plan, but there are so many aspects to this one that we're going to cover quite a bit. So, Dan, what's top of your list?
Usually, I go off the books a little bit. I go to try to get MVS more involved. They did that in the postseason. Look, it's working pretty well. So that's one thing. Kadarius TO not only has to be impactful, they need to find a way to keep him healthy to play the whole game. I would imagine that it was more precautionary to get him out of the AFC Championship game. I don't know what happened. I do know that he's said he's wanted to play this game, that he would play that no matter what. He was upgraded to a full practice participant yesterday. That's huge for them because we saw what happened in the AFC Championship game when McColl went out, when Juju went out, when Kadarius went out. It was, other guys did make some plays, but MVS had the game of his career in the biggest moment ever, and he showed up. That's not always going to be able to happen. That's just not the player that he is. And it's no fault of his own. I'm not trying to trash on him. He had a really great game. He's been great in the postseason. I would love for him to just be a postseason performer. Him and Frank Clark, man, postseason performers, sign me up. But Kadarius TO, the way he impacts a defense, he draws attention. He brings defensive gravity because of the way the Chiefs have featured him specifically.
Yes.
They threw a jump ball to him in the end zone against the Bengals. They do throw him the football a lot when he's on the field. He needs to be 100% in terms of playing. He's not going to be physically 100%, but if he's out there, they got to find a way to make it so he can stay on the field, even if that's just using him more as a decoy, because you can do that effectively and get other players open.
It's an ankle and a hamstring for him. So even as a decoy, he runs the risk if he gets a little too overexcited. I think he pulls his own hamstring because of the way he chooses to cut. So maybe as a decoy, that doesn't happen. I agree with you. I think the gravity that he pulls, it's a great word for it because it has a magnetic effect across the entire field in terms of drawing eyes, drawing coverage. It may not actually be schematic, but it's in peripheral vision of every defender on the field because it could be coming your way with him. I do think that affects the entire offense. And I mean, nothing might affect it more than this player's particular appendage that gives him a little bit of trouble. Excuse me. But as we go through, it is about Patrick, and I love the fact he's kind of a smiley guy. And he wants to emphasize strength there. He ought to be holding up, 5 full toes, in my opinion, because that's really what the question is. And I don't think it's much of a question anymore. I'm not saying he's playing possum, but I do think that he is stronger, like in this image, than he actually is letting on. I'm not going to put him at 100%. There's no way I would do that, but I will say it's 90 plus. Do you think that maybe that's true?
I think it's pretty close to true. And if it's not like physically true, mentally it's true. That's the big difference, is that mentally speaking, Patrick Mahomes might be the toughest player in the NFL. Mentally speaking, what he's not only had to come through, I think Jalen Hurts is up there as well, by the way. Mentally, what he's done in his career to get to this point, that these guys are incredible mental athletes. They are so strong in that department, but Patrick plays through pain probably more than a lot of people understand. This is one of those things, it came out in the last Super Bowl that they played in, the injury that he was dealing with, and he had to have, the offseason surgery on his foot. That shows you the kind of guy he is. He ran, 5+ miles behind the line of scrimmage in that game, all through pain to try and help the Chiefs get anything done. And that's what he's been able to do. Always mentally fit, mentally tough. Bobby Strope, the entire medical staff have done a fantastic job of making him as peak physically ready as he can be. His mind does the rest of it.
And that's what it comes down to. It is efficiency. And I think it's more than just the first 15. I think that sets everything up, but it's the tempo with which he delivers the ball. The offensive line we know that they have an elite interior three. It's about protecting those tackles. And a couple of things that I liked last week that they did was keeping the tight end in some, whether it was Travis or one of the other guys, and keeping the chips coming from Jerick McKinnon in particular, but Pacheco as well, to just give them a look that looks like it's 12, looks like it's going to be run personnel. And then even if it's just a two-man route, I'm happy with that, because as long as Patrick has the time, he can deliver it into the window that he needs to. And I think time is more important than number of options in this particular ball game. Do you disagree?
No, I think that's perfect. Like the big play down the field to MVS was a two-man route. It was a two-man route. It was, and you had Pacheco getting out to the flat late, but he was chipping help. There was a tight end blocking. Travis Kelce was kept in on a motion off of the play action to begin with, and then it was a two-man route concept. That was it. So they are so good. Andy Reid is so good at doing all of this to maximize the players you're going to be using, that it's all about time. If Patrick has it, he's going to be able to get things done. So I have my full faith in Andy Reid and everyone with Patrick to be able to get what they have to do with the players that they have.
I completely agree. Folks, if you're new to us, this is the game plan for Super Bowl 57. You may be watching this on replay. Check out our friends over at Mint Mobile. You'll see more from them here this weekend. And check out, like, sub, hit the bell here on the channel. You can check out the store for any of this gear that you might be into. But gear is part of it, because everything comes with this nice little patch that, you know, has got the LV all over it. You can see it here with Juan, and obviously with Patrick. I really like the logo, but what it doesn't do is give you this kind of feel from this guy. And that's what I'm looking for. We all know what Chris Jones is in terms of his elite status as a pass rusher. The thing that I think really stood out for the Bengals, and I think has to stand out this particular ball game, is what he does as a force multiplier to raise the level of everyone around him. Got a great game from Mike Daniel last time. George Karlaftis was around the ball, as was Carlos Dunlap. All of them have to be on in this ball game. And I think it's going to be up to Colin Saunders. You'll see Derek Nottie and Brandon Williams trade off a little bit in some run fits. But it's those three guys that I think have to go try to neutralize what Jason Kelce can do, so that this guy can do this kind of work and Chris Jones can actually get home.
Yeah, I think Brandon Williams might have his most important game of his short Chiefs career, because he does have some upside as a pass rusher, but he's known as a run defender. And if you're going to be on the field more as a run defender, the Eagles might go away from their run and hit some play action. And with that, Brandon Williams might be able to take up some more doubles and get doubled a little bit more, and allow Chris Jones, Frank Clark, Carlos Dunlap, and George Karlaftis to be able to get some one-on-ones. That's what this is all about. Like, they have to find a way to get success on one-on-one situations. And Chris Jones can be successful with doubles, with one-on-ones. It doesn't really matter. He is an elite of the elite types of players in the NFL. He's going to find success. I also think he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, only getting one Defensive Player of the Year vote. I think that was pretty disrespectful. I think he's going to view it the same way. But you talked about Derek Nottie and Colin Saunders and Brandon Williams. I think that those guys, like you said, have to have a huge role in this game, helping not only get to, some of those pass rush ability, but get them to those second and long and third and longs on the runs and the run stops to begin with. That's the way you're going to be able to let Chris Jones eat.
Exactly. And I think one of my pet prides of this ball game is this is an old school formula. The game plan for this is like Gunther used to do in the day. You take away the run, so you make them one-dimensional. If you do that, you win this ball game. Flat out, no two ways about it. And it's not just Chris, because I'll tell you, there are other guys that have to do it, including this dude, because Nick Bolton, this is what he is for. It's one thing to have an all-around linebacker like Willie Gay, who we all agree is great, is elite at getting into space and being able to get on the run. It's about Nick Bolton this game, in between the tackles and taking away the gaps. I think the Chiefs are going to have to run some guard center guard. I think they're going to have to run some heavy slant packages. I would not expect to see a whole lot of like heavy, long looping stunts, but it's going to be about getting enough movement on the front to keep Nick clean so that he can come downhill and attack the ball carrier. That's the formula for me. Game plan point number 2, in order to get this win. Do you think that's how they carry it out?
Yeah, they have to. You have to be sound in your run fits. And the only way you can do that is by keeping your linebackers clean. I think Leo Chanel is also going to be a pretty big key in this game. He's probably going to be on the field a little bit more, and he's going to be asked to get down and let the linebackers and the safeties and the corners come run fit as well, because he's, when you're in your base personnel, it forces a little bit more on your Sam linebacker, that strong side linebacker closer to the line of scrimmage. Be that cutback lane guy and let everybody feed to what they have to do. Defensive tackles have to eat some blocks too. This is going to be a very selfless game from everybody up front. Do what you can to let your linebackers help out the defense as best as possible. If Nick Bolton can be clean, get downhill through some gaps early, get some tackles for loss, we're going to see a shift in the way that the offense for the Eagles plays, because the Chiefs defense is being as aggressive as they can.
I love that. And I think that's going to be key. Now, the thing that gets me back to the offensive side is Patrick is going to be Patrick. He's going to have plenty of it. But this guy and this guy are going to have to help him out. And I know I'm a lot more run-oriented. I don't think the Chiefs have to run for huge volume of carries in this ball game, but I do think they have to protect, unfortunately. What the defense is going to have to do is selling out. They're going to have to put out optimal effort, and I think that's going to lead to some fatigue. So you do have to, I think, be at least attuned to the fact you have to carry and hold the ball a little bit longer on your possessions, and I think that's where Pacheco comes in. It's not going to be, I think, an emphasis, but I think he's the guy that can really save the defense in the way that I look at it.
Yeah, they kind of have to. The way that this is not a perfect plan for the Chiefs to win, because you don't want them doing what the Washington Commanders did in the first meeting with the Eagles, where they beat them. They ran the ball like 40 times. The Chiefs are not going to run the ball 40 times. That's just not going to be what they do. But they did have sustained success on drives. If you go back to the divisional game against the Jaguars, where Chad Henne orchestrated a 98-yard drive, that is the kind of soul-sucking, defense-breaking down kind of drive you have to have, where you continuously get to third down and you convert your third down. You have to find the Chiefs in this game have to be better on third and short than they have ever been in the season. They have to. And the one guy that they're going to have to feed the football in different ways and creative ways is Isaiah Pacheco, because as much as I like Jerick McKinnon and what he's done, Isaiah can grind out a yard. They got to get him more successful looks at third and short and make it so a defense can't just tee off on a short run or a short pass. You got to find a different way to go about it, however you do it. I know that the Eagles run their quarterback sneaks and they are so good at it. The Chiefs can't do that. They won't do it. They won't risk Patrick Mahomes. It's a different way about it. So you need to get more creative. You have to be able to let Isaiah Pacheco do what he does best, get downhill a step first. If he's met in the backfield, that really throws everything off for him. And when he can get going, that's when you see the 5-6 yards added on after he creates contact.
Yeah, it's those additional yards. Same thing with McKinnon. I think maybe one of the guys that I'm happiest for is McKinnon. Just to have this kind of revitalization of his career is really, really impressive. He seems to be very aware of how rare that is and very attuned to what Patrick is doing at any second of the day, because he understands that he's likely to be a recipient of something crazy. And I really appreciate that about him. And Patrick is so unique. Folks, we were recording this the day after he won the MVP again. So I think he's well within the odds to win the MVP again should they win this ball game. It will require a win, but I do have something special I want you guys to check out. It's our newest design. It is about being that elite. You can get it only at the RGR store over at bit.ly/RGR store. A couple of pieces up there, some good lids as well that I haven't even gotten my hands on yet, but I'm working on it. So check those out as well. It brings us to really the X factors in how I feel this game has to be. And number one is a group of guys that I think I've been talking them up for the last, since probably November. And now the national media is starting to come around on it. They're starting to see just how important this group is at making contributions to this team. There's a lot that we're going to talk about in the offseason, and I've already spoken about on Locked On NFL Draft, as well as NFL 33. You guys go sub over there that's where all of our offseason team building draft work is done. It is the fact that you have this gargantuan contract for your quarterback. You have to have the opposite end of the spectrum. The rookies contribute. No class has done more. We're talking over 10,000 snaps for this rookie class this season. It's incredible. And it goes to the point that it's not just McDuffie, although I think we'll talk about him in a second. It is Cook and McDuffie and Williams and Watson, and they will be tested. But the thing that I like the most about them is 3 of those 4, and we'll talk about McDuffie in a second, are the physicality type players that thrive in close contact and physical contact. That is my personal belief that you have to have when guarding A.J. Brown. And I think he is the one guy, if the Chiefs are successful in making this a one-dimension game where Jalen Hurts has to throw the ball, it is A.J. Brown that I am more scared of. I'm not sure how you feel, but that's where I come down. There's not a lot of passing weapons. There's Devonta Smith. There's Goddard. But it's Brown that scares me the most.
Absolutely. I mean, he's the big game guy, the big game hunter. The reason that they went out and got him is because Jalen Hurts did need some help over the middle of the field. Devonta Smith is a really good route runner, and he's able to do a lot of different things. But he, as a 1 with Quez Watkins as your 2, it doesn't really work out. He can do a lot of things, but when all the attention is on Devonta Smith, he's unable to really be that elevating guy. He was that elevating guy this year because A.J. Brown runs a ton of slants, he runs a ton of overs, and he runs a ton of go balls. And what that does is it creates a lot of defensive gravity. So now you have Devonta Smith, who's able to create with one-on-one opportunities multiple times a game. And he's also a really, really good player. He's able to do a lot of different things. So the Chiefs' defensive secondary has been impressive. You're going to give up some plays. And I think that they did a really good job of understanding that against the Bengals. They said, all right, sometimes we're going to lose a 50-50 ball to T. Higgins. He's just that good. Sometimes we're going to lose a 4th and 6 to Jamar Chase down the field. It's just going to happen. That's going to happen in this game too, where you're going to lose a route. You're going to lose a snap at some point to these guys. It's okay. They bounced back. They learned from those opportunities. And that's the key, is you have these young guys, they're coachable, they're moldable, and they learned from what they saw in that game with these weapons. And I don't know for a fact, I think they're going to be up to the task again in this Super Bowl.
I agree with you. And I think you have to be systemic about it, because right now I think you have an advantage. This might be point 5 or 6 in the game plan, but this guy's going to play a role as well, because in protecting those young corners, and not talking about Cook in particular, because he's going to play mostly a safety role. You might see a matchup with the tight end in a little bit of nickel action, but we'll still call that safety work. It is about Juan Thornhill over the top, because I do believe you're going to have to bracket A.J. Brown to be successful. Now, the line currently, at least according to FanDuel, who's one of the sponsors on Locked On Chiefs, so check out Locked On Chiefs as well, they have it at, I think it's 80-plus yards and a touchdown. That's the going line as we speak now. I am all for that. If they can manage to keep A.J. Brown to 80 yards and a singular touchdown, Chiefs win this game over and over and over and over, and I'm happy.
I think you're right about that. We'll see how it ends, because if he goes for 80 and a touchdown and they have like 200 rushing yards, I think they might still lose the game pretty handily. Mm-hmm. For me, it comes down to the rushing total that they keep them under. If they can keep the rushing game of the Eagles under taps, and then you can hold A.J. Brown, that's what this comes down to me. That's the big key for me, is being able to stop the run attack, whichever way they come at you, whether it's going to be with all of the different ways they move and pull their offensive linemen, all the different running backs they run at you, whether it's going to be the quarterback option. There's a lot of different things that they can run in this offense that sets up their play action and their downfield passing game. All of this is systemic of being able to hold them and get them into some of the obvious passing situations where the Chiefs can really tee off. I'm pretty comfortable with the safeties. I think that they've played really well, specifically in the playoffs. Juan has stepped up. Justin Reed has been great since the first Bengals game, and they have really stepped into the roles that they were asked to step into early in the season. This defense has done a great job of adapting throughout the season, getting better as Spags defense usually do. And we can attest a lot of the defensive success in the secondary to Dave Merritt and Steve Spagnuolo, who used to be a secondaries coach once upon a time. Like, that's what he did coming into the league. And he's done a great job with Merritt to get these guys coached up for this moment. I think they're ready.
I agree. And I think it's Juan's range. And I think if he is the backside of a bracket, I think he does have the chance to be dominant and say not in my house and take the ball away. That's what it's going to come down to. Now, the guy that might hurt them because there's so much attention on there is Devonta Smith. And I think this is going to fall to rookie Trent McDuffie quite a bit because I think you want to put Sneed most likely. I don't know if he'll travel, but he's going to end up with AJ quite a bit. But it is the footwork and the smoothness and the ability to do a little bit of everything that Trent McDuffie has brought that I think can help guard against Smith, who's a good route runner, who has the acceleration, but he's thin. He's not coming off the line like a ton of bricks. You don't have to win a physical battle with him. You have to be able to move with him. And I think I like that matchup a little bit better.
I'm hopeful for that. I think that Tyler Boyd gave him a pretty good workaround in the slot last week before he got hurt, or 2 weeks ago now. Devonta Smith's going to be a whole different challenge because he does have a longer, quicker body type than Tyler Boyd, who is a good slot receiver. And Devonta Smith, I've been high on Devonta ever since he came out of Alabama. He's been one of my guys. So I'm very happy to see him successful in this Eagles offense. I do think that Trent McDuffie, given being an outside corner, he has the sideline to work with. It helps him a lot. One of the big things about playing in the slot is you have to guess. There's a lot of space to cover, and if you're on the outside, you don't have to guess as much. You have better use of the sideline. You have better leverage understanding, and that's where I think McDuffie makes his money. The footwork with the leverage understanding. He's like, okay, I'm on outside leverage. I just can't get beat too bad over the middle. I can give a little bit away there, but I have the closing speed to recover. That's the difference for me with him being on the outside against Devonta Smith. I do think they're going to try to get him in the slot, though. I wouldn't be surprised to see Devonta reduce into the slot at times and maybe force Trent McDuffie in there. It's going to be a fun battle. I think Trent's up for it, but it's another big time matchup, and these guys got to come to play.
It is. If they play their zone, and particularly their zone blitz correctly, I think they're going to survive. I still think it's going to be close. And like the final aspect of how this team generally gets a win, I think it's a little bit diminished. And I love his intensity, but Juju's going to help. That's certainly top job for him, right? But he's not the only one. It's this guy, I think, that really is going to set the difference because I don't think he's 100% healthy. I think they were very cognizant of how far Harrison Butker could kick from last week. So I was going to make this a wider gap than I normally would. But I'm going to say that he does play a part in terms of putting up points, but I don't know it's the 58-yarder. I don't think it's they can hit from that far given his physical condition. Are you concerned about that in any way?
I'm not. I'm more confident that he would have made a 50-plus yard field goal to win the football game. I think he would have made a 55-yard field goal if he had to. I think he had the leg on that one, personally. And again, another 2 weeks off here. I just think Harrison Butker is one of the clutchest playoff big moment kickers that we've seen outside of Justin Tucker. Like he's been that for the Chiefs. He nails big time field goals. He came back from his injury earlier this season and set the record at Arrowhead. He lives for these big moments, and I am 100% with you. He's going to play a part in putting points up on the board because that's, I think, what he lives for are these big time games, these clutch moments. And maybe without the tackle that he made against the Jags, maybe we're not even talking about them here right now. So I think he's been crucial to their success in the postseason over the years, and he will continue to be a fixture of that success going forward.
Okay. I'm with you there. And all that culminates in what I think is going to happen. And folks, this is the way that the game flow works for me. I think the tempo in the first 15 is going to be very evident for Kansas City. I think it's going to be about the defense being able to attack the run. Will they get play action and maybe give up a chunk play in the pass game because of it? Yes, I'm okay with that. Go attack the run and take it away from them. I want to see heavy blitz in the A gaps. I want to see them condensing their splits and disrupting gap blocking against those Eagles. I think that will work, and I think it gets the Chiefs out to a lead overall. Then it becomes a battle back and forth. And if they are successful in making them one-dimensional, making Jalen have to throw the ball, that works into the Chiefs' advantage. I think they build a decent lead, but I do think there's a lot to be said about the Eagles' ability to run their offense. And I know they haven't played from behind much, but I think they're in that position going into maybe the fourth quarter, and they have to push to come back. I think Harrison Butker is involved, but at the end of the day, I think this ends up being destruction in the desert, and the Chiefs win 30-27. That's where I'm sticking.
Yeah, close games are close games, man. They're going to be a literal gut punch for us watching it, like it usually is. This is a classic Steve Spagnuolo bend, don't break, y'all. We are going to let some things slide that allow us to gain positional advantage inside the red zone. I think that's what this comes down to. They're going to go for some fourth downs. Nick Sirianni is one of the more fourth down aggressive coaches in the NFL this season, but you can prevent them from doing that if it's 4th and 7, 4th and 10 inside the red zone. If you start forcing them to trade field goals for touchdowns, that's how you're going to control this football game and win. Ultimately, it's going to come down to the red area. The Chiefs have been so good at not letting up big play touchdowns this year. I think that will continue again in this game. And when you can do that, it gives you confidence. I think we've seen the Chiefs' confidence on defense grow throughout the season, specifically in the postseason. Turnovers last game against the Bengals, that's going to help a young group mentally as well. So big plays are going to happen. They don't get down on themselves when they do. Like, that's what we've seen. And I think that will continue in this football game. My prediction is a little bit different. I have them winning 30-24, a little bit more, but you see Harrison Butker is involved with at least 2 field goals and just putting them out of reach down there at the stretch.
I like it. I like it a lot. Now, folks, we'd like to know what yours are. You're going to hear from Gary here in a minute, give you all the definite stat data you have to know to maybe make your decision a little bit more. But tell us your prediction down in the comments. I want to know. This is our supersized Super Bowl game plan. We do this every week, but this one's big, and I know it's been a long one. Don't forget what Gary's doing, because I think you want to know all of that. Also, you can support the channel, hit those super thanks and the super chats. We appreciate that from all of you. And always hit that RGR store to get the brand new MVP M15, not 13, because I think he's going to win another one. That's my last little prediction. I think he's got it in him, and I think Patrick Mahomes gets a second Super Bowl MVP to go with his regular season MVP. And then we start talking about the big D word. We'll get to that next week. I guarantee you.
Now, game to go.
Got a couple of special things. Eric Eager's going to be with me tomorrow. Longtime Chiefs fan, VP of R&D over at Sumer Sports, formerly PFF, works with Thomas Dimitrov. Insider's insider about the league. You're going to hear from him tomorrow in a special episode with me. And then we will be live directly after the football game. When Super Bowl 57 comes to its conclusion, we can watch the confetti fly together. It'll be wonderful. So for Dan Harms, any last thoughts? Any last little prediction from you?
I'm predicting Chris Jones continues his dominance. I think that this is, regardless, offensive line, great offensive line. I don't think it matters. I think he's that good. We're talking about a player who has risen his level of play in every game this season. 8 pressures against the Bengals. I mean, I think he's going to be looking to get in the same realm in this game. He's going to leave his fingerprints all over it.
I like it, folks. Let us know what you think. Hit the like, hit the sub. That bell too, that lets you know when we're going live, which we will do directly after Super Bowl 57. Thanks for spending your time with us. Here's Gary. We'll talk to you next time.
All right, stat primer time. Interesting fact heading into this game. Andy Reid in his career with as a coach of the Eagles went 3-0 versus the Chiefs. And then when he went to Kansas City, he went 3-0 versus the Eagles. So this will be the 7th game that Coach Reid has coached where either he was facing the Eagles or the Chiefs. And if he wins this game, then he'll have more wins against the Eagles than against the Chiefs when he was coaching in Philadelphia. Offensively, these two teams are pretty dang good. So the Chiefs and the Eagles both rank in the top 5 in terms of yards per play and net passing yards per play. In terms of rushing the ball, the Chiefs have done a slightly better job than the Eagles of doing that, getting 4.7 yards per rush, while the Eagles are getting 4.6 yards per rush. In terms of points per game, the Chiefs have the number 1 points per game offense, while the Eagles have the number 3 points per game offense. Both teams turn the ball over the same amount, roughly about 10% of their drives ended in a turnover. In terms of taking care of the quarterback, this is where the two offenses set themselves apart. The Chiefs only gave up a sack on 3.8% of their dropbacks, which ranked 2nd in the NFL, while the Eagles gave up a sack on 7.6% of their dropbacks, ranking 24th in the NFL. So I've heard all week how incredible the Eagles' offensive line is, yet they're ranked 24th in terms of sacks allowed, sack percentage allowed. I'm wondering if maybe they're just focusing on how good the run blocking is, But if the Chiefs can get into the Eagles' backfield in this game and sack Jalen Hurts, it could be a huge difference maker in this game. In terms of third down percentage and red zone conversion percentages, both teams rank top 5. Both are very good at converting. Overall, though, the Chiefs do have a better offense than the Eagles, both statistically and I believe personnel-wise. So the Chiefs do get the edge as far as the offensive side of the ball goes, but the Eagles' offense is good. They're no slouch on that side of the ball. Flipping to the defense, both teams have done fairly well. The Chiefs, I think, are very underrated in terms of how their defense has performed so far this year. And in terms of yards per play, the Chiefs have given up the 7th fewest yards per play in the NFL, while the Eagles rank number 1, only giving up 4.8 yards per play. In terms of passing defense, both of these teams have a top 5 passing defense in terms of yards per play. The Eagles rank number 1, giving up the fewest yards per pass attempt in the NFL, only giving up 4.9 yards per pass attempt, which is incredible. But there's a caveat to that. The Eagles had an unusually easy schedule in terms of quarterbacks that they had to face. So in games where they played against a quarterback in the top half of the league, they gave up 7.9 net yards per pass attempt. And those were those games were versus Goff, Lawrence, Rodgers, and Prescott. So the Chiefs, I believe, have played 3 or 4 quarterbacks who are better than those quarterbacks in that grouping. So the Eagles' schedule really did them some favors. Now, they can't control who they play. The NFL does that, well before the season even starts, and they dominated who they played. So make no mistake, their defense is good, but I think it's interesting to note that while they were giving up 4.9 yards per pass attempt, when they faced better quarterbacks, that wasn't so much the case. In terms of rushing defense, the Chiefs have a better rushing defense than the Eagles, giving up 0.2 of a point less per yard than the Eagles have. The Eagles rank 24th. The Chiefs are 15th. In terms of turning the ball over, the Eagles have forced a turnover on roughly 5% more of their opponents' drives, while the Eagles ranked 3rd in the NFL, having the 3rd best turnover percentage on defense. In terms of points per game, the Chiefs are ranked 16th in points per game allowed, while the Eagles are ranked 7th. That nine ranking differential can be a little bit deceiving because the Chiefs have only given up 1.5 more points per game than the Eagles have. I think both these teams have good defenses, and I think the Chiefs' defense, once again, is undervalued. In terms of pressure percentage, both teams are top 5. In terms of blitz percentage, both teams hover around the middle of the league. In terms of sacks, the Chiefs are number 2 with 55. The Eagles are number 1 with 70. We've all heard that the Eagles almost broke the single-season sack record that the 85 Bears set, so that's pretty dang impressive. In terms of third down percentage, both teams hover around 38%, which is good for 13th and 14th. And then red zone defense is where these two units separate themselves. The Chiefs have the second to last red zone defense, while the Eagles have the 12th best red zone defense. In terms of keys to this game or what to watch for, Eagles advantage. So these are areas where the Eagles have an advantage statistically. Their offense versus the Chiefs defense. So the Eagles score 28.1 points per game, ranking 3rd, while the Chiefs give up 21.7 points per game, which ranks 16th. Philadelphia's red zone offense, which ranks 3rd, versus the Chiefs' red zone defense, which is where you think that this is an advantage for the Eagles as far as getting the ball into the end zone. We'll see what happens in the game, though, because the Chiefs' defense looked much better versus the Bengals in the red zone. In terms of areas where the Chiefs had the advantage statistically, their rushing offense versus the Eagles' rushing defense. Wouldn't it be funny in this game if the narrative that was going on, the conversation that were going on, we're basically saying the Chiefs have to stop the Eagles' run game? Wouldn't it be funny if that got flipped on its head? The Chiefs end up running the ball very well against the Eagles, and that's why the Chiefs end up winning the Super Bowl, because the Eagles couldn't stop the Chiefs' rush game. That'd be pretty ironic. The Chiefs' rushing offense is ranked 8th, while the Eagles' rushing defense is ranked 24th. So that's an area where the Chiefs can attack the Eagles. The Chiefs also have an advantage in terms of rushing the passer on the defense side of the ball. They have the 5th best pressure percentage, while the Eagles' pass protection, like we mentioned earlier, has not been great. They've given up a sack on 7.6% of their quarterback dropbacks, which ranks 24th. So their Chiefs have an advantage there in terms of rushing Jalen Hurts. And we haven't heard a whole lot about the Eagles' offensive line having to hold up versus the Chiefs' pass rush, but I've heard a lot about the Chiefs' offensive line having to keep the Eagles' pass rush at bay. I think it goes on both sides of the ball. As far as strength versus strength matchups, this is where both teams are really good. The Chiefs' pass offense versus the Eagles' pass defense versus strength matchup. Both units rank first. Should be a great matchup for the Super Bowl. Then you have the Chiefs' pass protection, which is the second best in the NFL, versus the Eagles' pass rush, which had the most sacks and the second best pressure percentage in the NFL. Then you have the Chiefs' pass defense, which ranks fourth, versus Philadelphia's pass offense, which ranks third. So I believe that, like many games, this game is going to be won in the trenches. If the Chiefs and Eagles, if neither team can protect their quarterback and get good push up front on rushing plays, then I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game. However, if the offensive lines for both teams can hold up, get some push, keep their quarterback clean, then it's going to be a high-scoring game. And as far as the scores are concerned, Ryan is picking the Chiefs to win 30-27. Dan is picking the Chiefs to win 30-24. I am picking the Chiefs to win 45-42. And Seth is picking the Chiefs to win 31-24. So, if you had to guess, I think that both offensive lines in this game are going to hold up. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Should be a super entertaining Super Bowl. And I'm going for, obviously, the over in points in this one. So, what do you think is going to be the score in this game? What is your prediction? What are your keys to the game? Where do you think the Chiefs can exploit the Eagles team? Where do you think the Eagles can exploit the Chiefs? Let us know in the comments. As always, make sure you like the video if you have not done so already, and subscribe to this channel also if you have not done so already. And spread the word about RGR football. That way we can get the most number of subscribers content that we bring to you. And that's about all I've got to say so far for this stat primer this week. Another Super Bowl for Kansas City, 3 in the last 4 years. How exciting is this? Here's to a hard-fought game where the better team wins. It's Super Bowl time, baby. Let's go, Chiefs. Take it easy.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.